So we'll wait another minute or two, but Chris, I got to share that the one post that you shared about the Zoom meeting was absolutely hilarious. And if you could just explain, I think that's a nice little.
You want me to explain it?
Yeah, just tell everybody what you had on.
I woke up one morning and I do some graphic design and I make labels for a living. But I woke up one morning and I had this concept. I'm like, we're all in isolation, and so I start playing around and I grab a hold of a Zoom meeting off of Google and I paste it out and I start putting little pictures here and there and then framing them out in black, and I got myself going. And then I go, when you're in isolation too long, when you get on the wrong Zoom meeting and you just want to see where the conversation goes, and I have like, what's his name? I had a reporter. What's that? Hannibal Lecter was there, and I picked out aliens from like Babylon 5, Star Trek, and Star Wars, and I had them all over the screens and stuff, and I'm like, you just want to see where the conversation goes. I even took the little text or the texting thing, and I had to like copy the colors and find the font, and I said, so what's everybody doing today? Or something along this. I'm paraphrased, but it was fun, and it was about an hour and a half of like way too much coffee and 5:30 in the morning. So
good job.
I put a disclaimer on Facebook and I put it out there, and I put a disclaimer. I go, this is completely fake news and blah blah blah, and I still have people, what meeting did you sign on to? And then I have to explain it again, and I'm like, okay, apparently I did good.
Whole new definition of fake news.
Yeah. Like I said, I had the disclaimer. I said this is a complete fictitious thing, and but yeah, people don't read everything.
Well, I got a good chuckle out of it, and I shared it with some family members. They got a good chuckle out of it as well, so thank you for sharing.
I'm glad. We all need a laugh during this. Laughter is a big healer. You can be responsible, but if you don't enjoy life, then at least that's another one of my mantras. Besides, just because you can doesn't mean you should. By the way, good seeing you, Bruce.
Oh, Bruce, you're on mute. I'm going to unmute all, and then people can choose to mute. We'll get started. I don't have a lot to introduce, but a quick synopsis for those who may not have been with us yesterday. Central New York, along with 4 other regions, basically a large swath of the middle of the state, have all been cleared to start with phase 1 in terms of reopening. And with that, there's been a lot of questions. Central New York, I think we were officially added to the mix at 2 o'clock yesterday when the governor came on. So it's a quick turnaround. Chris, I'm going to borrow your quote. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And basically, if a business is in phase 1, and anybody who is not sure, or if you just want more information, forward.newyork.gov, and New York State is putting out a lot of information, and our county website also has a lot of information. So the county, the state, pushing information about what the requirements are. But I think it's important, if a business, employer, employees aren't quite comfortable yet, make sure you get it right. Don't get it quick, because it's kind of like gravity. We might forget, but gravity does not. We might forget, but the virus will not. So our mistakes will be incumbent on us. And it is everybody's responsibility: business owner, managers, employees, customers. So Chris X, when you were talking earlier about not being as comfortable, what we've talked about here in the city is we want the gentle, polite reminders and trying to remind people, hey, please cover up, because it's something that benefits every individual. And the governor has been consistent in his messaging, and I think we need to continue to be consistent in our messaging. So the discussion, as we're moving forward, there's been questions about, well, does this change what happens for individuals? And the answer is no. that with the lifting of the New York pause in terms of businesses, we are still looking for people to practice proper social distancing, cleanliness, et cetera, et cetera. So our personal habits in terms of how we are keeping ourselves and those around us safe should stay the same. But as we get into the opening for general retail with curbside pickup, construction includes landscaping, manufacturing, businesses that were not deemed essential previously, but now they can get going forward. We want people to be holding themselves to the standard, and it's for everyone. So there's a lot of information that is out there currently, and I think it'd be good just to open up to see if there's any questions and to let today be more of a dialogue. Because again, as an elected official, I try to transmit information from what's happening around us to everybody. And part of that is also getting information back to the county, to the region, and to the state. And if there's things that we can do or we should be doing that'll help facilitate things, I want to hear about it. Any questions, thoughts?
I'll ask a question. Hi everybody, this is Lauren Masadi Klein. Some of you I know, some of you I haven't met before. Just to piggyback on what Chris was sharing earlier before we kind of started the formal part of the call, I listened to the governor mention this morning that local officials need to make sure that businesses are reopening or following guidelines. How are we monitoring this in Cortland? And additionally, when the complaints are coming through the hotline and then forwarded to our local governments to enforce, are we prepared to do this? And who is that information coming to?
Well, on the county website, the Department of Labor, I believe, is a spot where if people have a complaint, they can go make the complaint there. The county health department has been fielding complaints as well. And there are calls that come into the city, and sometimes it's been our police department, sometimes it's been our code department, and there's no clear, it has to be this person or it has to be this entity. But I think it will require a strong team approach and everybody kind of saying, okay, well, how do we encourage and make sure businesses are where they need to be? So for example, if it's in the city, police and codes, we're very fortunate. We've got full-time staff and the ability to follow up when there's concerns. When I've had calls about a business outside of the city, I've forwarded it on to the health department or the labor board. But just getting the information to one of the government entities will help. And if it's the municipality that they're in, that's probably pretty good. But anybody who's not sure, go to the county website, and there is a link. I believe it's on the right-hand side, partway down, if people have concerns or complaints.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there will be some businesses that this is uncharted territory. Businesses are being asked to file a plan, and that's supposed to go to the region. And essentially, that plan, if there is a complaint, when there's a follow-up, the question will be asked, okay, we're looking at your plan. Are you adhering to it? And in terms of a timeline, there's no way that all the plans that possibly get submitted today are reviewed and businesses can open up. So there is, I think, a good faith effort in terms of government and what's being asked of companies. Saying, hey, we're asking and we're assuming that you're putting in good faith to do the plan well and that you're going to execute it. There's been times we did see some essential businesses that we needed to, let's just say, make them toe the line a little bit more diligently. And we plan to continue to do so because it will influence and impact all of us. But going forward, everybody working together will help us get hopefully where we need to be.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes, Bruce.
I'm on a different device today. Carol needed the office, so I'm downstairs. So can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay. Well, you answered my first question in terms of who is going to enforce this, and are we in constant communication with county then, so that we don't get, well, we were allowed to do this in this municipality, but we couldn't do it in this municipality? I can, sort of see that stuff coming up without constant communication, and you use the word consistency, so I'll stay with that. Are we meeting with them regularly? so that we have as much as possible. We're approaching it from the same page in Cortland County, and whether it's the city, a village, or whatever.
Regular communication is what I would say. I communicated quite frequently with Hal McCabe, who's the mayor for the village of Homer. The two of us being the more dense population centers. We are staying in contact with Paul Hyder, the legislative chair, and in terms of the health department, we understand what their role is. But consistency is a concern. And
How about with the sheriff? Our chief Catalano and the sheriff talking regularly, or somebody from each department at least?
Chief Catalano, I see he's doesn't have the video and he's muted, but Chief, would you care to respond?
Yes, we do talk regularly, Bruce. We do probably do things a little bit differently. Each time I have my city jurisdiction with a lot of ordinances and the assistance of a full-time code office. The sheriff has to work with multiple municipalities and different types of codes. So the way he handles things may be a little bit differently than us, but I think we're on the same page.
Okay, well, you know what? If I get any calls, at least I can tell people that we're making a good faith effort to be as consistent as we can. Since this is all uncharted waters, I don't anticipate it all going smoothly the entire way. So thanks for that, Chief. That helps me. And then the other thing, Mayor, is will the regional, I don't know, commissions or whatever they're called, will they be releasing information daily or weekly or whatever, so we know where we're at with the criteria to stay open?
From what I understand, the dashboard is being updated as quickly as possible. The dashboard on the state website is trying to share the numbers, making sure that people are aware what it looks like in their region. And there's a lot of questions, okay, what if? But having the knowledge at the tip of our fingertips is the first thing. And it's a little bit of a balancing act, because what happens one day you really don't know until the next day or maybe 2 days later.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so we can go to that dashboard, and they're making, again, good faith effort to keep people informed of what's going on, so we know where we're at with our criteria. Okay, those are the two big things I was wondering about. Do you have any idea how many retail places have planned to file plans?
My assumption is that every retail business will look, anybody that was not previously open will look to be open. There's only so long you can go before there's bigger troubles.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the questions. Does anybody have a comprehensive list? And I see Bob Hayes with us. If anybody had a comprehensive list, I would think Bob, because I know that you've got a majority of businesses that are members of the chamber.
Yeah, I can tell you from our standpoint what we did. So some of you received it. We sent out an email yesterday morning that went membership wide, but it included information from the state, both on the details they wanted to see as part of your COVID operating plan, and also the link to sign the attestation to be in business. And then we followed that up with phone calls to every construction, retail, manufacturer that are in our membership to make sure they had that email, unless we had already heard back from them previously, like I had from Chris. So that piece is done, but we're not 100% of the businesses, and we welcomed, and if anybody on this Zoom with the mayor knows of people that want to sign up just to get our COVID related communication, you can do that right on our COVID page. We're happy to keep you informed.
Yep, so Bob in the chamber has done a tremendous job of keeping tabs on what's happening and passing along information to the business community. So a recommendation, one of the things that the city has done, and this is reiterating what I talked a little bit about yesterday. When this was coming around, we started asking the question, what are the best steps that we can take to protect our employees and people that come into City Hall? And we made a lot of adjustments, changing shifts in terms of staffing, spreading people out, PPEs, decreasing access directly onto the second floor. So if people needed to pay bills or drop off things in a drop box. So we stayed open, we kept functioning, but we just changed and we decreased the face-to-face contact, which is the biggest thing. Now we're starting to have the conversation. It's been over a month. How well are we functioning? And how do we make changes so that this is sustainable? And it may be sustainable from a business standpoint, but we might have some employees that we asked, okay, we need you to come in later. And they could do that for a week, a couple weeks, or a month, but it might become too much of a strain personally, maybe on their home life. So we're starting to have a conversation. Do we need to make some adjustments so that we can better accommodate the needs of everybody? And but when you start thinking about what's best for everybody and getting that dialogue, it's going to help any organization succeed. So I don't care what the business is. If you're taking care of your employees, then they're going to help take care of you. And I think I know the same thing is true in terms of city government. We've got a lot of dedicated people, and they've worked through this. We've had some significant challenges, and we're obviously not through them. But we're going to adjust and try to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody so that we're protecting them. I don't want safety to be a concern for anybody, so we're taking every step that we can so that everybody has that peace of mind. So I would encourage just having those dialogues, because I think the unknown sometimes is more fearful than what we do know. And the thought, well, what if this, what if that? Well, what can we do to eliminate those concerns? So I can open up. Are there any other questions or anything that anybody would like me to address or for us to discuss this afternoon?
I'll start because everybody's afraid, which is ironic. Through this with some other people that of my friends, I'd like to quote Frank Herbert: "Fear is the mind killer" from Dune. It can be paralyzing. I mean, it comes down to kind of. I'll put it into retrospect with my machinery. My machinery is pretty complicated. If I go at the machinery with fear, they're going to eat me up. If I go at them with
Chris,
that helps me.
Chris, you're breaking up a little bit. At least just me. I
What's
don't know everybody else. You broke up a little bit. If you could repeat that, please.
I don't know if I can. So anyway, I was quoting Frank Herbert, "Fear is the mind killer." It can be paralyzing. You have to respect other people and yourself. I mean, that's what it kind of comes down to, and that's where that other statement came from that you quoted me on. I have to deal with it I don't have a huge company, but I have 8 people. Now I have 8 different personalities, 8 different people that are dealing with this in different ways. And then a lot of friends that throughout the area that are dealing with it in different ways. And if we go out of fear, it becomes a Twilight Zone episode. And I don't want to live in a Twilight Zone episode. I see community coming together. Different companies around the area. Some people making masks. Some people at home making masks and making them for other people. Different businesses that are popping up. I have dairies that have opened up during this, and they're not working out of fear. They're working out of hope. And I try to think of hope. I've been very fortunate with the label business. A lot of hand sanitizers. And but I choose to be hopeful. We're making it through it. We'll come out stronger. That's where I kind of come from. And people call me Mr. Freaking Sunshine, and I'm being polite. But you got to keep a positive attitude. Otherwise, you bite into the darkness, and I don't want to bite into the darkness. I see the sun is out and the flowers are coming up. This is a good day. That's where I'm going.
I agree, Chris. Thank you.
Hey Bob, if you just said something, I think you were muted. I saw your lips moving. I don't know if you were like being ventriloquist or what you were doing there, but.
I was pretending I was Chris. No. Sorry, I have a few people in my background that I was, barking to and conveying messages. Sorry, Bruce.
That's okay. No, I was at a meeting where I was talking for about 5 minutes before I realized, and I was angry because they weren't responding. Then I realized that I'm mute the whole time, so just wanted to avoid that. So Chris is right. Man, we went through this yesterday. I think the biggest thing we have to keep communicating to people. You have to do the right stuff. Wear the mask. Stay 6 feet apart. Keep washing your hands. Do the stuff that's been advised, and we will get through this. But as the governor repeatedly says to us, we bent that curve through sheer will and cooperation. And if we just all of a sudden throw caution to the wind, that curve will go right back up again. And that's the one thing that we need to constantly remind people of, that we're, like he said, like Churchill said, we have the beginning of the end, but we're not at it yet. We can't just let our guard down. So I'm glad we're opening things up, and I'm glad I went to that site. Bob, thanks for that link too. And the state has some really good guidelines there on what to follow, and do these things, boom, 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 and you can stay open. And it's up to us as local leaders to make sure people are doing on both sides, the business, the employee, and the customers, what the recommendations are, so we can keep moving forward and get to phase 2 and phase 3. So, I think we need to constantly communicate that message, and I don't think we can over communicate it, Mayor. Every time we get a chance, we have to just say masks, wash hands, 6 feet apart, follow recommendations.
Bruce, could I add to that? Because I think some places do a better job of communicating that. And, some places I've gone to, and again, I haven't gone many places, but some places have huge, that the moment you get there, there's an enormous sign that says, essentially stop, do not come in here unless you're masked, etc. And that's a pretty big visual reminder, to stop. And other places, there might be a teeny tiny little sign on the door saying, hey, don't come in unless you're masked. And there's a big difference. And, people are ignoring them in both places, but you're much less likely to ignore a great big huge sign as opposed to a tiny little sign that nobody's enforcing. And especially if there's a person standing there too, as you're coming through that door. So there's different levels of, and I'm not saying that the police need to be standing at every door, but there's different levels of if somebody looks at you and acknowledges, is that person coming in with a mask, or if they even are comfortable saying something to somebody. So.
Yep, no, you're right. And I think that given what's going on around the country, some of us will be more comfortable than others about saying something.
Exactly.
Because of the responses that you have to take into account. And plus, sometimes to be fair, somebody might not have a mask because it could actually be health related. If you're claustrophobic, I don't think you're going to be walking around with a mask very much because it's just going to be overwhelming for you. Or you won't be thinking you can breathe. So you never really know why somebody doesn't have a mask either. I don't think we should presume that they're doing it because they just want to follow it. It could be a medical reason, so we have to be sensitive to that. And hey, Mayor, based on what she just said, what if the city, could we maybe put some kind of template on our site for a sign, what it could say, so people could just download that and tack it up, which isn't a big sign, but at least it's a start for people, or at least an idea that this is what it could say if they want to make their own sign. Can we maybe do something along those lines? To help people.
Reminders.
Yeah, if you're going to, we encourage everybody to put a sign on the door. Here's what what one of the ways you could present the information you're trying to convey. Not making it an order, but making it a suggestion and giving people an idea of how to word it. Not that they're not capable, but maybe just helps out.
Hey, Mayor, if I might add, Steve Weinberg, I think was on the call yesterday. I see he's not here today. He created a sign that Cortland Eye Center had put up. It was very well done. So I don't know if that was his template or if he got it, but he might share with you what he put together.
Track him down. I got
I've
his
seen
number.
some, I'm sorry. I've seen some that are really neat where, they show the 6 foot in both directions, where it's showing this way and this way. And it's like, well, isn't that a nice sign? Reminding
Yeah.
not just 6 foot this way, like don't crowd folks all over the place, which are just much more helpful and valuable.
In the chat, Dan Cleary, radio, TV, and newspaper ads, getting info out to businesses and the public. Bob Haight, you were on 101.5, correct? Talking about putting information out to business owners.
Sorry, I have to keep unmuting. Yeah, so Vinny did a nice story. He forwarded it to me last night, so I didn't hear it live on air. I'm not sure when he aired it. I was just opening up. I think I've got a copy of this sign that maybe I can share with everybody as it opens. Let me see if I can easily do that.
Yeah, but we definitely want everybody to get the right information. That's one of the reasons why we had the Zoom yesterday and today.
Can you guys see this? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that's what is at Cortland High.
That's at the high school?
No, Cortland Eye Center has this.
Oh, Cortland High. I thought you said Cortland High.
Oh, sorry. And yeah, so Steve Weinberg at Menards did it for him.
Can that be plagiarized?
If you get Steve's permission, it's not even plagiarizing.
And we can reach out to him, but appropriate signage. There was a suggestion yesterday as well about for businesses that do have their plan and they're open, some sort of sign or something, putting it out saying, hey, we've got our plan put into place and we want people to come in. So we want to see if we can't push that along as well.
Mayor Tobin, Tim Bennett speaking from the Cortland Voice. If any of those businesses want to share that with you or email it to myself, I'm willing to create a page and share whatever those business plans are. If they want to email that to us, I'd be more than willing to house that, and anyone can share that. Any group. T Bennett, TBENNETT at CortlandVoice.com. Send that over, whether to myself or you. I'm more than willing to share that, house that.
Excellent. Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
Well, I don't have anything else, Mayor, so I think I'm going to sign off, and I got a couple of things I got to take care of here. So thanks for doing this. Thank you, everybody, for everything you're doing, and we appreciate it, and stay safe. See you later, Chris.
See you, Bruce.
I will give everybody the weekend, but 1:30 Monday, same log on. I'll plan on opening up a Zoom call again Monday. If these are proving to be valuable, if nobody shows, nobody shows. But if it's a couple of people, if there's questions or thoughts. But as I said, keeping the lines of communication open is, I think, going to be very helpful as we proceed. And phase one, we're talking manufacturing, retail sales with curbside pickup and construction. That may not be a major shift, but I think there's also been a shift in terms of mentality for a lot of people. And hopefully it's more positives. Okay, we're taking steps. We are moving forward, but we also want to remain vigilant. I know there were some posts and there were some concerns. College kids, as they are starting to, you have some people coming back to pick up their possessions because they left on spring break, and some picked them up over the last couple months. But there's been some kids in town that were not here previously. And there's also kids that are in town that are packing up and getting ready to leave. And I've seen some small clusters up on campus, down on Main Street. Sometimes they are people that are living together, and sometimes in groups as large as 8 or 10. But the immediate knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, what are they doing? But the same way that we have some different people and different expectations, or they're in different living situations, bear in mind that people may be adhering to the social distancing guidelines. If they live with 6 or 7 people and you see 5, that might be a group. And don't just assume that it's everybody coming in from out of town, because it's been a smaller population, but there still have been college students that have been here over the past 2 months or so. Just keeping a lower profile for the most part. But again, if there are concerns, we have had people have called, complained, and I think rightfully so, when they see a group starting to get bigger, and it's been in neighborhoods. I've gone by, I know police have gone by, and we've been, I think, fortunate that our community members have responded positively that, hey, remember this, and then the larger, as groups seem to be growing, they've shrunk. People have found other places to gather, or not gather, hopefully. But going forward, we want to keep those lines of communication open. We've got, the farther along we go in recovery, the more vigilant we need to be. Chris, I agree with you, because as we go forward, there's going to be more opportunities for people to cross paths. So as phase 2 potentially comes about, and everybody wants to get their hair did, it's going to be incumbent on all of us to be a little safer. And Dan, thank you for posting the link for the county resource page. I should probably be cutting and pasting that to put in the chat, but I appreciate everybody sharing their information. And Dan Cleary, props to you. The Cortland, what's it called? The Cortland County COVID-19 resource page on Facebook. That's been, I think, a great resource. There's been a lot of people that have been utilizing that and seeing what else is out there. Any other questions?
Ryan, this is Lauren again. For future calls, would you entertain the idea of inviting someone from the health department to participate?
I can call and ask and see if somebody's available. And if not, if there are specific questions, let me know what the questions are, and I can try to get the answers and share.
Well, I just think, as the governor said today, it's changing on a daily basis. And, one of the concerns that's come up recently is how this is affecting children. And as we know, in Cortland County, our hospital does not have a pediatric department. So that's just one example. How are we prepared to deal with the pediatric cases that come up, if they do come up? God forbid they do. But just kind of good to know what conversations on that end of things are looking like.
Good. Okay, and I'll reach out to the hospital as well and see if somebody may be willing to jump on and just talk about how the hospital is prepared. I think one of the changes that is occurring and will be occurring is an increase in testing, the availability of testing, if people feel like they're sick or feel like they've been exposed. And now that the state is saying to reopen, we have to keep about 30 tests per 1,000 going. So they need to test. So I'm encouraging people, if you're thinking that you've been exposed, the best thing, call, make an appointment. The hospital has the drive-through, and they give you the swab. People say it's uncomfortable, but better a little bit of discomfort for one person as opposed to infecting whomever else is in your social circle. And the more that we can have people testing regularly, been informed, I believe we are up to speed on contact tracers. So if somebody tests positive, that person will get asked a number of questions to identify who else they've been in contact with, and then reaching out and getting in contact with those people to prevent further spread. So good things can come if we continue to communicate. But yeah, I will plan on being 1:30 on Monday. I see I actually have a couple of city employees, a couple department heads, and I'll say goodbye to everybody, but if the department heads and sub-heads, if you can stick around, I've got a question. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Take care.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Agreed.
Thank you.
I'm going to start by locking the meeting.